A house of horror in Kolkata's Tangra district, where a family's dark pact ended in bloodshed, betrayal, and unanswered questions. On February 18th and 19th, what seemed like a tragic accident unraveled into something far more sinister. A chilling tale of a suicide pact gone wrong, multiple murders, and a 14-year-old boy, ladies and gentlemen, who cheated death not once, not twice, but thrice. Pratip Dey, all of 14 years, first survived a meal laced with sedatives. Then he played dead while being smothered with a pillow by his own uncle. And finally, he made it out of a high-speed crash that claimed his father's life. His account of what happened inside that four-story home is as harrowing as it is horrifying, pointing to a family spiraling into despair where those meant to protect him became his greatest threats. Tonight, we are asking what drove the Dey family to the brink, what really happened behind closed doors, and what does this case tell us about the unseen pressures that often push families towards such tragic extremes. Joining me now is Ananya Chakraborty. She's the advisor to the West Bengal Commission for Protection of Child Rights. Very importantly, she's someone who has extensively spoken to the 14-year-old Pratip Dey, and she knows his ordeal firsthand. Ananya Chakrabarti, thank you very much for your time. Can I start by asking you, you have of course spoken to 14-year-old Pratip, who saw the murder-suicide pact involving his family play out. Has he spoken about what possibly was the motive?
Well, there was the family was undergoing a huge debt. Their parents, his father and his uncle, they were in some kind of a business which was in loss, running at a loss, a huge loss. So they had accrued a very big debt running into several crores, which they couldn't repay. And there were people constantly knocking on their door, asking for the money. So that is the reason why their parents, they couldn't face it anymore and they didn't know how to repay the money. So they decided to go in for a suicide pact.
Can you share some details of what Pratip says he saw? How he saw this murder-suicide pact being executed by his father and his uncle, because it has left his mother dead, his father dead, his aunt dead, his sister dead. He has survived and his uncle has survived.
Well, I can't tell you all the details, but what I can tell you is that he's 14-year-old. He's a child. He's in school, and initially they were not aware of it. The children were not aware. They were living in a joint family. His father and his uncle. So they were together, and they were also in this business together. So initially, the father and the uncle had spoken to the mother and the aunt separately, saying that they wanted to, they decided that they should, all kill themselves. But then on the last day, the mother and the aunt, they backed out. They didn't want to do it. So the father and the uncle murdered them. And then they murdered the mother, the uncle, and the cousin sister. And they also tried to murder the boy, but the boy was resisting. And because the boy was resisting, and he was strong, he used to go to the gym and do yoga, etc. So the father, according to him, asked the uncle to suffocate him with a pillow, and which the uncle tried to do, and he pretended to be dead because he was into yoga. He could hold his breath, and he held his breath and he pretended to be dead. So the uncle left him and went away. Then after some time, he got up and he went to the other floors and found his mother, his sister, and his cousin dead. His mother, his aunt, and his cousin dead. So then he went even further up and saw his father and uncle, who were surprised, of course, seeing that he was still alive. And then they convinced him that they should carry on with the suicide pact. So I asked the boy that, why did you agree? So he said, because everyone had died, all the people that I loved with all my heart. My aunt, my mother, my cousin's sister, they meant everything to me. They had all died. And my father had tried to kill me in any case, had asked my uncle to kill me in any case. So what was the point of living anymore? So when they asked me to come with them, I followed them to the car, and that was that.
Ananya ji, there have been various reports with different versions of the story. There was one report that said that poison was mixed in the payesh that was served to the family. Then there was another report that seemed to suggest that the wrists of the mother and the aunt had been slashed by the uncle and the father. Any clarity on that aspect?
The payesh was not mixed with poison. The payesh was mixed with sedatives, so that nobody could resist when they finally were killed. So, so the mother and the aunt and the sister, they all had the pies. Even he had it, and he, so they because the mother and the aunt and this cousin were drugged. They were basically drugged, so they couldn't resist. But he found them with their wrists slit and their neck slit, etc. He couldn't tell me clearly. He said, I found their bloodied bodies lying there. And yeah, that was that.
Can I ask you what the boy's state of mind was when you spoke to him?
What can the state of mind be of of a young boy who has just lost his entire family, the family who used to love very much. But he did not express he did not express his sorrow or anything because he was in a stunned condition. He was in a daze. He very obviously he was in a daze, and he was very, very sad. But he told me the entire incident without any expression in his face. So we have recommended that he should be given proper psychiatric treatment. He needs to come out with the sorrow that is pent up within him. So he needs to cry. He needs to break down and cry.
Can I ask you, if you've been a counselor 30 years plus, have you seen a case like this before?
What has stunned me is that the senselessness of the whole thing. That, okay, you might be in a huge debt. You may be under a huge debt. And you kill yourself. That is one thing. But to take an entire family with you, it is something which, it defies all reason, according to me. I've never seen something as heinous as this. This is the rarest of rare crime, according to me.
Ananya Chakrabarti, we leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much for joining us and telling us what exactly the 14-year-old boy saw and heard when his family was trying to execute this suicide murder pact. Thank you very much. Dr. Vikram Singh, you're joining us on the broadcast. Rekha Agarwal, family lawyer, joining us. Dr. Harish Shetty, this is going to be a very quick chat. Dr. Singh, can I ask you whether you have seen something like this play out before? We've seen the Burari case, but in the Burari case, it seemed that everyone in the family was on board. It was a suicide pact within a family. There was some degree of cult and occult that was involved. In this case, there is a suicide pact and the women of the family back out and they're simply murdered. Have you seen something like this before?
Shreya ji, I would say that I have never seen anything like this, so spine-chilling, so diabolical, and something so horrific in my life and my 36 years of careers in the police also. I've seen many, many horrific cases, but nothing like this. Something that defies all reason, common sense, and indeed any definition to say that, yes, there is no resilience. There is nothing to indicate that the horrible fault lines that have entered the society, there is no buffer, there are no shock absorbers, and the consequences that people contemplate suicide. And if it is not bad enough, people contemplate family suicides collectively. And if the two ladies, Sudeshna and Romi, back out, well, they again plan to have reconstruct the entire conspiracy to harm the entire family and harm themselves totally. I, for one, have never seen anything as criminal and as diabolical as this, Shreya ji.
The fact is, Dr. Harish Shetty, the father and the uncle, Pratip's father and uncle, tried to kill themselves as well. They took the kheer that was laced with sedatives and then they drove their car and rammed it against a tree. It didn't help, they still survived. They continue to be in hospital. I want to ask you, what pushes families to the edge of this desperation?
Shame.
I mean, you had money, you were millionaires, and then suddenly you have nothing. Many people go through ups and downs in life like that. But for an entire family to decide that they are all going to kill themselves,
shame is one of the
that's
most
beyond comprehension.
Shame is the most important reason. Shame and loneliness is a suicide cocktail. Big industrialists go to NCLT and they save their lives. They put their hands up and they say they have nothing. But when a family is isolated, they have a reputation in their own perception. They are not able to see the reputation fall in front of their own eyes, and they feel it's best dead than alive. What is important is how many people have they approached and told, well, we are down by 200 crores. Can you help us? Well, we are not ashamed to say this openly. So shame, exaggerated shame and loneliness is a dangerous cocktail. Whenever you are down, you should understand that great industrialists have been down and they've come back. People have come back even after they had no money at all. There are enough examples in the country. So if there is an association of businessmen there, you have FICCI, you have association of merchants, etc. They should take cognizance of this and they should educate all businessmen and all merchants to understand that suicide is not the answer.
Okay, so this is clearly a very rich family that suddenly finds that it has no money, that it is deep in debt, and you're saying shame drives them to do what they did. My point is,
Shame
if it was
and
just
loneliness.
shame driving them, Dr. Harish Shetty, and loneliness, okay, you contemplate suicide yourself. Maybe the brother who is involved contemplates suicide as well, and you say, okay, we can't do anything about it. The two of us are responsible for the business. We failed. We have shamed our families. Let's commit suicide. But what makes them convince their entire family, including their 14-year-old son, including the 10-year-old daughter, into going along with their plan? That's crazy.
In fact, they believe that after they have gone, the plight of these family members would be very bad. And they believe that the best thing is for all of them to go. It's a subculture, it's an ecosystem which is tightly guarded. Nobody can penetrate it, and that's what happens. I do not know what their mental state was. They should do the state should do a psychological autopsy. But when the walls of the family are guarded by iron and steel, when nothing can leak out, when shame becomes one of the most important feelings and loneliness, and when FICCI and other organizations of industrialists do not address this issue at all anywhere in the country, it's high time that associations of businessmen and industrialists should talk about it openly and also ask people to come in the front and share if they have business loss or if they have a family loss or if they have depression. Depression, the narrative of depression and loss in business should be as important as how you gain in business, how you come together and have a banquet and a drink. I think we need to come out of our shells and outside our doors to talk about the fact that India is slowly becoming a suicide capital of the world. And loan recovery agents, loan recovery agents have caused deaths across the country. They are worse than those who existed 10, 15 years ago. And I think there has to be a law to protect those who have lost money, because the loan recovery agents are very hostile. They're very hard. They'll do anything to traumatize you. And there should be some guard around that.
Okay, Dr. Vikram Singh, you wanted to come in. Go ahead, please.
My experience, Shreya, has shown that those people who are very emotional, who have a heightened sense of honor, they are more prone to commit and harm themselves and commit suicide than anybody else. Of course, I live in the NCR area. There are people who have run into much bigger losses. They go to the NCLT, declare bankruptcy, and proceed with the bankruptcy issues. But seldom have I seen anything as horrific as this. But I would say that the family heightened sense of honor and also perhaps being highly emotional people, what I could make out from the physiognomy, from the facial expressions, highly emotional people, that in my experience has also been that those who are very emotional, sentimental, and a tremendous and heightened sense of honor, they are more prone to commit suicide than other people.
Rekha ji, when I was doing the interview with Ananya ji, the one thing I was wondering is what happens to Pratip Dey? He's going to come out of this very scarred. That is a given. His mother is dead. His aunt is dead. His sister Priyambada is dead. His father and his uncle are in hospital. They may survive, they may not survive. In any case, he's not going back to them, given the fact that they have tried to kill him not once, not twice, but actually thrice, right? So what happens to this 14-year-old? He has given his testimony to the police. He's an eyewitness. But ab iska hoga kya?
Asking me? Shreya, is that question to me?
Yes, Rekha Agarwal ji.
Yeah. Shreya, first of all, I think I'm absolutely numb. It's reading about it is one thing, but seeing their pit photos like this, as Dr. Vikram Singh rightly used the word, it is spine chilling. And I'm absolutely numb and cold, even participating in a discussion like this. Very, very, as I say, truth is stranger than fiction, that old cliche that goes. And this is something which has actually happened. This is not something which I'm reading in an Alfred Hitchcock, a murder mystery book, which we used to read in our college days. This just shows the total breakdown of a social structure, of a family structure. And there's a Hindi word, word in Hindi which says, probably which kind of sums it up. It says, Mahatvakanksha. Aapne pucha tha ki iska hoga kya? So I think that the ambition, if I can just draw a similarity to the Shakespearean play, Lady of Macbeth, where ambition and power drove Lady Macbeth to pollute the mind of her husband to take the life of the king. So I think that where this seems that there was such a strong ambition to reach a certain height, see certain pinnacle in the society as far as money power is concerned, that in the attempt to climb the ladder to success, the family values, though the family is extremely emotional, but there was really no family bonding, that one brother was supporting the other brother. On the other hand, it seemed that they were supporting each other to take their lives. Now, it is a crime what has happened. There's no doubt. It is a crime. It is a murder. It is a very foul murder. And as far as law is concerned, as the people who are no more, the victim, the people who've taken life in their own hands, of course, that is the end of the story. But as far as the 14-year-old survivor is concerned, I think that his life is going to be scarred for life. This is more than a topic of law. I think a topic which can be discussed by a psychologist and a psychiatrist whom you already have on the panel. Law will take its own course, but against whom? Who is going to survive? Who's going to survive this? There are going to be no survivors. So it is a child whose entire family is finished and who is going to face the scars his own life. And God bless him. God bless this child. And God does. Hope he doesn't. He had the power. I think that the strongest was the child who had the biggest strength inside him to kind of pretend, to fight with life, because the desire to life was so strong.
Sure.
The desire to live was so strong that he actually kind of fooled his family members.
Okay.
So I really think that there should, as far as one of the persons Dr. Shetty spoke about, that what about the loan sharks? Of course, if you're going to take a loan, you have to pay it. But there are avenues. I think that this family was so sensitive. They were not thick-skinned. जिसको कहते हैं कि पैसे खा के हजम कर लिया. वो ये कर नहीं पाए उसको. They knew that they had to face society. They were so honest. And there are people who just go to and say big industrialists, big, builders, like I don't want to take names, but societies, private builders, private families go bankrupt. Private companies go bankrupt, and all that you can do is knock the doors of the court. It is the person who has lent his money, who ultimately, has to, who's taken his money. If he's shameless and thick-skinned, then he will survive.
Okay. But maybe it's good to be thick-skinned.
Yes,
because
if
being
you're peacefully, nothing will
thin-skinned
happen.
means that you just don't kill yourself, you end up killing your
Yes.
entire family. Dr.
Yes.
Harish Shetty, I have 30 seconds, but I do want to bring you in here on the state of mind of the child. So the child tries to resist. He somehow survives the first attempt and the second attempt. But, you know, by the end of it, this is at least what he told the counselor when she asked why he decided to go along with his father and uncle when they knew what exactly they were up to, that they were planning to ram the car and die in that car crash. He said, what was the point of me living? My mother's dead, my aunt is dead, my sister is dead, and my father and my uncle have tried to kill me twice. I want to know from you whether there is any hope and chance of normalcy in this boy's mind and life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Child should be left alone, and 100 people should not interview the child. What he thinks now, it might change. A child psychologist and a child psychiatrist should work with the child continuously till he comes back to normal. Secondly, which is very important also, is that there would be a lot of people who would come and say, I want to adopt this child. All these emotional responses should be filtered, and this should not be allowed. Number three, after a disaster, there are state governments which give financial compensation. This is a disaster for the child. The child should be compensated, child's education should be taken care of, and he will go through the entire process of post-traumatic stress disorder, shock. Then he would feel very low, then he would have intrusive thoughts, nightmares. A child psychologist and a child psychiatrist are much better than all the politicians who will go and see the child and talk rubbish.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Harish Shetty, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much. Rekha Agarwal, thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Vikram Singh, thank you very much for joining us. What an absolutely unbelievable and gory story coming out from Calcutta today. We finally have the details of what happened, and we've heard it from the mouth of the child who actually survived 3 attempts on his life by his own family. We'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you all very much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I'm slipping into a quick break on the show. Coming up next, is the Goa government in denial